Also goes nice with your color aesthetic.
Oh, very vibrant for my liking. Uh, but yeah, whatever's best for the frame. But I think the vibe of this room in general is very vibrant and very loud in a good way. So yeah,
Love
that
it.
works perfectly.
Glad to meet you halfway on
Yes.
that.
Well, which brings me to my first question. Can we talk about the space that we're in right now?
Absolutely. So you are in the Collaborative and Experimental Ethnography Lab here in the Arts and Science building on the beautiful University of British Columbia Okanagan campus on the unceded ancestral territory of the Syilx Okanagan people. And this is an ethnography lab that's specific to my research program and the graduate students, undergraduate students, and postdoctoral fellows that I have the privilege of working with. And so it comes out of this larger funding model in Canada called the Canadian Foundation for Innovation and the British Columbia Knowledge Development Fund that allows many other lab spaces like this across our campus to exist and create innovative, cutting-edge research.
Well, you just mentioned your research
Yeah.
being part of the space and playing an important role in how the space was created. I was privy to knowing more about the space and the technological advancement that this place has, and it being the coolest room on campus.
Thanks.
I want to ask you about your research on woolen blankets
Yes.
that you did for your PhD, and how do you describe that to someone that you meet at a party? That sounds very fascinating at first, like a research on woolen blankets, but then I know that there's more thought into it and there's more intricacies behind it. So can we throw some light on that?
Absolutely, yeah. So how do I go from woolen blankets to an ethnography lab? So the arc there is materiality and sensory ethnography.
No, it's just the short amount of time that we have, which made us come
teasing.
to the,
I'm just
yeah,
teasing. But I think the woolen blankets are. Let me think of what kind of party I would be at telling someone about this. Woolen blankets are often something, and I'm not making any broad assumptions, that a lot of us have experience with different textiles or different materials. And sometimes when people think of woolen blankets, they can think of something that's itchy or scratchy, but actually these woolen blankets have a really, really complex and deeper, often darker history for many people. And so my research that is started in my PhD and is now sort of culminating in a book, a monograph, is looking at the ways in which blankets like the Hudson's Bay blankets, the Hudson's Bay Company blankets, or the Pendleton woolen blankets, but we have woolen mills popping up in every sort of settler state and being consumed for years and years. And we hit this moment in the 1980s, which is really kind of significant in contemporary Indigenous art, where Indigenous artists are looking at these blankets and making very anti-colonial statements with them. They're calling out these histories and they're owning the agency of these blankets. And so I started to look at that, and I started to look a little bit more at where else these blankets were popping up. And so not only in Canada and the United States, but in Aotearoa, New Zealand, the woolen blankets had a deeper history there within Maori communities and have a different history today with also contemporary Maori artists and craft people working in craft markets, taking woolen blankets and turning them into hot water bottle covers or cushion covers. And so they take on these different lives. And then in the third place where I've sort of looked to see these blankets, I did truly what you'd call like multi-sided ethnography, and is in communities along the Pacific Northwest coast, but specifically Tlingit communities in Southeast Alaska, who were so generous and allowed me to come in and learn more about what are known as button robes, which historically were made on these woolen blankets, often traded by the US Navy, and sewn with buttons that have clan crests. So that's really, it's not just about a woolen blanket, it's about all the things we do with woolen blankets, not just put them on our beds and dread the itch.
Right. I think it's a symbol of learning more about the community here. And I think that's very important.
Yeah.
And considering the fact that you've been almost all across the world,
limited,
but like across the globe, like
Yeah.
different parts of the globe.
Yeah.
So like you've been in Canada, of course.
Of course.
You've been to New Zealand. You've been to the UK. You've been to the US. That's different sides of the world, basically.
Yeah, and also something that's really important to recognize in that is they're also all settler nations.
Yeah,
that
yeah,
I
yeah,
have,
yeah.
you know, my family comes from Ireland. And
Mhm.
so I've also, you know, my current research is, you know, moving more towards looking at my own culture and my own identity,
Right.
and sort of thinking about how do we do work at home versus abroad, right? Because anthropology is changing so much. And when I was doing my PhD, I was working at home in Canada and, you know, in the comfort and spaces that I knew because I had previously lived in Aotearoa, New Zealand as well. So thinking about that sort of anthropologists working within our own communities is really that shift from that more historical extractive anthropology, which we just are not engaged in here at UBCO.
And I believe the department has a few courses that people can usually take.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, you mean like specifically in the courses I get to teach?
Mhm.
Well, I have the privilege of getting to teach Anth 100, which is to me one of my favorite classes to teach because it's first year students coming in, often, you know, new to university. Maybe they're the first generation to go. And I see a lot of students when I ask in the first day, what's your major going to be? I know as a first year student, I didn't know what my major was going to be. And a lot of them often say psychology. And by the end of the term, I say, let's do that quiz again. What's your major going to be? And the room shifts to having anthropology majors. So I love teaching Anth 100. I think it's a great way. It doesn't matter whether you're going into engineering or computer science or human kinetics or nursing or psychology. Anthropology is a grounding course that helps us understand culture and the norms and behaviors and values that people carry. But my course actually starts by us looking at our own selves and our own lived experiences. And then I get to teach classes at the second year, third year, and fourth year. And so in a second year class, you would be more engaged actually in this lab space. Because we're doing a lot more digital work. So that's Introduction to Visual Anthropology. And we really look at the history of the visual in anthropology over about 120-year span. And students in the course previously have worked on making collaborative autoethnographic films about their use of social media. And I teach a third year course called Things, which I love. And it's all in collaboration with the amazing folks over at UBC Studios, in particular Joel Thiessen. So there's a lot of collaborative support coming there and teaching. And we teach in the Things course, this is Anth 327. To remember all my codes. And we learn about material culture. So like the woolen blanket and like objects such as, say, your watch or your hat, and think about the biography and the story of these objects and how do they exist in the world. And then we learn photogrammetry and 3D modeling. So out of that, then we understand the story and the ethics behind why we can make 3D models and how we can't make them. And that culminates that class in an exhibition in the Visualization and Emerging Media Studio over in the Commons building, which is this arced, gorgeous, like curved VR wall. So everyone comes in and puts on glasses and gets to see these 3D projects. And the fourth year class, I also teach a third year class on ethnographic methods, which is super fun. That's a requirement for all undergraduate majors in anthropology. And then the fourth year class is I teach advanced topics in visual anthropology. We get more into like the theory of why we study art and why we study objects. And so bringing in a lot more of that theoretical work.
Oh, I think that really creates like a full circle.
So you're going to take my classes now?
Yes, I will. I definitely, most certainly will. I don't know if I have space for like lower year electives, but I definitely will.
I'm just teasing.
It's really a great opportunity if doing this for the CCGS department. I'm not even in the department. I'm not even a major, but
that's the best.
It gives me, I already have like a creative language.
Yeah.
And I get so much substance to put out there, and I get so many stories. There's only been a few professors that I've gotten a chance to talk to but it's just been so enriching, and
That's amazing.
yeah, it's actually been very nice. I feel like there's a common theme in all these CCGS courses, which is that they're all to a certain extent very introspective.
Mhm.
And I think that kind of thing is very important for a first year student or a freshman who's coming here for the first time and they don't know anything about Kelowna in general.
Yes.
And I think taking courses like ANTS 100 is important, so that you build a relationship with the land.
Yeah.
Through art.
Yeah.
I think you're teaching what could be art history, and then also the art present, if
Well,
that makes sense.
It's funny you bring this up. So my first degree and my second degree are in art history.
Oh, okay.
And then my third degree is in Maori studies, in Indigenous studies. And then I moved into anthropology. I had taken some linguistic anthropology courses in my undergrad, but I found that the discipline of art history didn't allow me to really expand into the social behaviors of artists and why, that deeper motivation of why they were doing what they do. So that is a very keen observation of that arc. And so I love when cultural studies students, any student from the Faculty of Creative and Critical Studies in art history comes into the class and sees the different ways that we can sort of look at art and look at culture around us through the visual and the sensory.
Okay. And how do you go about understanding what the psyche of an artist would have been behind creating something that's not even labeled in today's date?
Well, I think this is a key thing, is that a lot of the artists that I have the privilege of being in conversation with, and there's many, and they are so generous with their knowledge and their time and their introspection as well. But I tend to work with more contemporary living artists and their practices rather than historical work, say from the Renaissance.
No, but when you're like studying them or like researching on let's say the woolen blankets, like you don't know the name of a particular artist that created that woolen blanket, right?
Yeah.
But you said that you try to get behind the mind that created it.
I'm trying to get into a deeper understanding of their values that inform why they're working with a woolen blanket in their contemporary art piece. And the thing I should clarify is I do know the names of every artist who's been working with woolen blankets.
I'm sorry.
No, but that's just sort of part of the research, right? Like you're following a material and then you see it appear in all these different ways. And it's not always just the actual woolen blankets. It's also artists who are representing the woolen blankets, maybe in painting or other media as well. Yeah. So I think trying to get into the deeper understanding of why an artist might be working with a certain material, it also is part of the fieldwork research of spending time engaging in a range of methods from, say, semi-structured interviews or participant observation, but also getting to know them, whether it's being in their studio, going to their exhibitions. And so it's really a fully embodied way of being with artists and makers.
Yeah, okay. Another thing that really caught my eye when I was researching about your research was ethnography, just the topic, because I didn't know about it. It's from what I read about ethnography, it is to fully almost become a part of the community and to absorb information about them. And to consume knowledge about how things work in a certain community. What was that like? Because there's what's that experience like? Because I think that must be really enriching and really fascinating as an experience. I wish I get a chance to do something like it, like be an ethnographer, or maybe.
But I think we can all do ethnographies in our everyday life, right?
Yes.
Ethics comes into it in terms of the core to it, but a lot of the work I was able to do in the ethnographic research around the woolen blankets was also because I had experience in art history as a curator. I was in those spaces, so I was able to also understand the community and the context in which I was also self-embedding myself within. I was part of it. And I think, the key to ethnography is that it's not just a quick snapshot. It's often these long durational projects. And it means living with, being in, observing. And it's the methodology, it's the way we approach research, but in there we have unique, discrete methods. So some people might use different methods like photo voice, using photography. Some people might use just semi-structured interviews, participant observations, walking, mapping. We draw on a range of different methods to get a holistic understanding of sort of the norms and values of people.
I was talking to Professor Shrida the other day.
Yes.
And they told me about how they just go to the pond that's right in front of EME and ask the students to just consume it in any way possible. And so the nature of their course is such that even a science student can take that course and they would have a completely different perspective of it. An art student would have a completely different perspective of it. And I think that's this kind of nature is true with ethnography and anthropology too. Because it asks you to take a step back and look at things and look at the big picture. And
we can't ever be truly objective, right? Because we all carry subjectivities, we all carry biases. But I think in some of the introductory classes in anthropology, Anth 100, I get students to do an assignment where they have to draw a map of where they are in relation to their existence to help to understand themselves within an environment. In the 300 level class of ethnographic methods, we're actually getting students to undertake the research ethics component, which is key before you go and do ethnographic research. So it's like, what are all the ways that we ensure we do no harm when we set out to do ethnography, to learn within our own culture and those around us? And so we work through all of those steps of ethically approaching, protecting people's identity. But sometimes there's projects that people's identities need to be known because they're important. Like in my project, they need to be known because they're important artists and makers. And so there's a huge ethics component that comes into ethnographic research. So it's not just observing what we're doing, it's ethically approaching it and holding that responsibility. And that's a real counterpoint that we teach across all the 4 years of the undergrad is the core values of do no harm in the research we're doing. And that's because of the early history of anthropology and many disciplines, psychology, that were quite extractive of people's knowledge and identities and experiences and exploited individuals across a range of cultures and contexts. And so we're very conscious to undertake ethnography as something that's a little bit more collaborative, I would say.
And dialing back to your art history time, and I want to know what your perspective was like when you were getting into undergrad and you were just starting to get into the real world. What was that like? Did you ever foresee becoming a part of what you are today?
I never foresaw I'd be sitting here talking with you today.
Me too. I also never thought so.
No, my undergrad, I thought I had a specific trajectory, and one course changed my trajectory, and that was an art history 101 class with a professor whose name is, at the time, was Ashlyn Haughey. They're now Ashlyn LeConte, and they looked at women in Renaissance, and I took their class, and I was like, how do I become you? So I approached a professor with knots in my stomach, and she helped me see what an undergrad degree in art history was. And so that I was also able to take other courses in anthropology and adjacent courses. And I found myself in a department that was the history of art and design. So I was looking at art, but also design and advertising and working in a space around a lot of artists. And that's what led me to do a master's degree, more focused in the history of photography. So you never know. That's the thing. Undergrads are magical experiences. They're a lot of work, but they're a chance for us to like really just hone in and try a bunch of different things until we find our spark, until we find that passion. And so I took a circuitous route to anthropology, and I have to say my PhD in anthropology changed my life, and it just opened my eyes to new ways of thinking, being, and existing. And I'm forever thankful for University College London for my supervisors training me.
Wow.
Anthropology is, and the thing is, to me, it's not just classes, it's a way of life. Yeah, and I think you'll find that in some of my other colleagues.
No, I actually quite agree with the fact that undergrad is a magical time. And like, yeah, every semester I feel like there's some sort of a revelation that comes to me. And like it changes my perspective. Like last semester I wasn't taking any art history courses. I took 2 art history courses this semester for the first time.
Great.
And it really does put things in perspective for you as an artist too.
Yeah.
Like after a point, art becomes a testament of time and talks about history. And I think, side note, but it really asks you to not take yourself too seriously as an artist.
But it's also like realizing that art is life.
Yeah.
It's it's so encompassed. Whether somebody is writing a computer code, one could argue that is art.
Yes, of course.
And
yes,
because it's a language as well. And I think that, not to put rose-colored glasses on about undergrad, it's also very challenging.
Yes,
it comes with its challenges, but those aha moments define you.
No, and it also becomes tedious sometimes because it's your first time away from home. Usually for most people.
Totally.
And that's what usually takes a toll on you.
Yeah.
And but luckily I did not have any kind of trouble in my first year missing home or anything like that. Yeah. Because I was also in computer science at the time. I've switched majors. It was the end of second year that my parents decided that I should do what I actually wanted to do all my life.
What an incredible opportunity to have that support.
Yes. It came about a bit later, about a few 20 courses later, but it did come about before I graduated, and I'm really lucky for it.
But also you have this increased knowledge now of art and science.
I hope I do.
Right? Because a lot of there's such binary thinking that, if you're in the sciences, you can't do arts, or if you're in the arts, you can't do sciences. But I think that one of the magical things about undergrad, and one of the magical things about UBCO, let's not forget this, is that we can take those courses and become interdisciplinary thinkers.
That's true. I actually started taking philosophy courses when I was in computer science, and learning about Descartes and the 5 meditations and everything like that was very eye-opening. And because most people that I had around me in computer science were also like rote learners, and they would just stick to their laptops, have like 5 screens open in front of them in classes. And so philosophy, it was a completely different world.
And a different way of thinking.
Yes.
Right? And the logics.
Yes. Yeah. And different from, very drastically different from the logics in computer science.
Yeah.
As you said, it is binary. Computer science in itself is binary. That's a joke right there. But
is it?
because that's the language that computers are talking, right? But yeah, I think the only thing that I can say here is that I would encourage everyone to expand their horizons.
Yep.
And take whatever entices them.
It's like if you think you are a math major, take an anthropology class.
Yes. If you're a computer science major, take an anthropology class.
If you're an engineering student, take an anthropology class.
That's the way to go about it.
And I think one class can often plant the seeds because there's so many different trajectories within anthropology. Our conversation focuses in on visual anthropology, but we have colleagues like Dr. David Geary, who's looking at Buddhism and religion and ritual and heritage sites in India in his research. Is fantastic. We have other anthropologists that are teaching language, and not just like the mechanics of language, but actually language creation. Like Dr. Christine Schreier is thinking about and has created languages for Hollywood. And so there's all these different opportunities that, you can have your your trajectory, but you can also fulfill your passions. And sometimes you can find those in anthropology. If you're a nursing student, come and take one of Dr. Laura Meek's medical anthropology courses, right? So there's different ways. Anthropology helps us understand our society and culture, and in turn helps us understand ourselves within and where we may even carry bias. So I'm a hard sell on taking an anthropology course.
No, take an anthropology course. Trust me. I haven't taken one, but I think
now you're not leaving here without that commitment.
No, I will. I most definitely will. I don't know if I can take a third year anthropology course without having the prereqs for it.
I think generally you have to have an Anth 100 for third year.
Okay.
I know in my second year class, my filmmaking one, Introduction to Visual Anthropology, I have no prereqs on it because I want everyone in there. Yeah.
Okay. I'll just email you about it. And
Sounds good.
We can see what we can do, because this is something that I really want to do. I was talking to Professor John Corbett.
Yeah.
And he told me about this course that he teaches called experiential learning.
Yes.
And I was like, that sounds super cool. It's just traveling around.
Yep.
It's just taking a stroll around Kelowna, basically.
And it's about actually doing the work, not just hearing how other people did the work. So that's why in my 252 class and 252, you're making the film. You're learning the rule of third shots. You're learning lighting. You're going out and, framing it, building a storyboard, scripting it, and then showing it at a film festival at the end of the term. Like you're it's a collaborative effort. In the 327 class, the things class, people are actually learning how to use like your camera for the first time. They've never touched anything
learning
other
how to
than
use things.
Smart technology, right? That we take for granted.
Yeah.
Learning software such as reality capture and darkroom that they never would have touched if they weren't, in that class. So I think stepping outside of our comfort zone is good, and stepping out into community is really important, as long as we have our ethics in place to do no harm.
Perfect. I think that's the perfect note to end this video.
But in anthropology class, we'll do no harm. It'll only enrich your life.
I was about to say that. Thank you so much for doing this. It's really been a great conversation, and I hope that I can take an anthropology course.
Me too.
And I would love to talk to you more.
Absolutely. I'm here. The lab. We're all here. Make an appointment.
We could do another episode. Who knows, about some new topics that we want to talk about.
Next time we're going to talk about sensory ethnography.
For sure.
We're going to think with our senses.
Okay.
And maybe we'll go out and about and do something.
I'm down. I'm down for that. Yes,
okay.
For sure. We could do that in the summertime or something.
Love it. Awesome.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Awesome.